I'm with Liz Becker from Strong Voices for Israel. Now, Liz, what is Strong Voices for Israel?
So, Paul, first of all, thank you for having me here. I am pleased to share information about our organization and some of our amazing speakers and founders. So, Strong Voices for Israel is a nonprofit where we bring firsthand testimonies of IDF reservists, of October 7th survivors, Holocaust descendants, and we bring them specifically to non-Jewish faith-based communities so that they can really, in most communities that haven't had the experience or the ability to meet a soldier and hear those stories firsthand.
And so you're bringing IDF reservists, October the 7th, Nova Festival survivors, and generation Holocaust survivors to share. That must be a very, very powerful thing.
Extremely, extremely. Well, it's powerful for various reasons because, first of all, we train these speakers. So we make sure that they're trained in how to communicate their stories effectively and be able to really connect with their audience because that's another thing. It's one thing to be able to read an article or maybe see something on TV, but when you have someone in front of you in person that is able, because usually after our presentations there's Q&A, and those members of the congregations, whether it is a church or it is a high school, a Christian high school or a university, there's always time for Q&A after, and the interaction between the attendees and our speakers is just incredible. That's really where a lot of the magic happens and is so valuable.
Do you have a lot of powerful stories that they speak about?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can only imagine with the past few years and since October 7th, how powerful these stories are. Uh, again, whether it is a soldier talking about their experience in Gaza and what they've actually seen firsthand, because, let's face it, we're living in a day with so much misinformation that is out there, so much truth that is being withheld or being twisted by people that have not been there and do not know firsthand what's been going on. So when they're able to see that, see evidence of that, see really what was going on, see the tunnels in Gaza, see what these soldiers found in the tunnels in Gaza, it is incredibly impactful. And also, just the same with October 7th survivors. They have some unbelievable stories of survival.
So when like an IDF reservist goes into some of these places to speak, and today everyone is saying, "Oh, Israel has committed a genocide." You're breaking that narrative to show and to prove that Israel is not breaking a narrative, but not committing a genocide.
Absolutely. That's exactly what our speakers are prepared to do. And like I said, they bring their story with genuine authenticity, with proof. And another aspect of this, to be honest, Paul, is usually the congregations we go to, they're on the most part pro-Israel. We prefer to be working with those that are on our side or that have that fundamental belief about Israel and about the Jewish people. And there might be some that aren't 100% on board, but that are still welcome to hear and are open to perspectives. But those that are pro-Israel, on the most part, they are because of theology and strictly because of theology and scripture, which is great, as they should be, especially if you believe in God, right, and the covenant. So yes, that is great. But we want them to have another connection to Israel as well, not just scripture. We want them to see Israel from on a different side, on a different level, and have that human connection. And that's what we really enjoy doing. It's been a tremendous pleasure for me to be involved in this and having co-founded Strong Voices for Israel. It's something that was a passion project as a daughter of a Holocaust survivor that has now given me the incredible pleasure to understand our Christian brothers and sisters and the communities and the Christian Zionists that are out there. And I can't tell you how tremendously grateful I am for them.
Mm. What are some of the stories that you've been hearing from the Nova Festival survivors?
Well, I mean, there's stories, there's men, there's women, there's stories. We have a speaker who was one of the security guards there, and he escaped, and his best friend was the hostage Bar Cooperstein that was released, one of the last to be released. And the powerful story of how he survived, and he survived actually after helping others escape. He actually went back into Nova, and he survived by being stuck in a but by hiding in a cactus tree for like 13 hours. So there's tremendous stories of escaping in a car, and going through fire, being the only person, in addition to two other people in their vehicle, to be able to escape a path where nobody else survived, driving out to escape out of the area. So there's several stories
Mm.
that are out there.
I imagine when you have someone there telling truth and saying, this is what I experienced, you can't fight that because they're actually giving an experience of truth. So people can't deny those facts because, well, this is the truth. This is what I personally experienced.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't doubt it. Listen, people can doubt, right? We live in in today's age. You're finding so many people that might even see a fact and doubt it, but ultimately, on the most part, a logical person that is having that experience and hearing the words and how that person is speaking will know whether it's authentic or not. You should be able to know that. And yeah, it's definitely an extremely valuable option. Never mind, Paul, that a lot of the churches we speak in, they haven't even met a Jewish person in their life. Never mind an IDF soldier. We had one experience where one of our soldiers, I can't remember where he was. I believe it was Oklahoma. I'm not sure, but he spoke at a church, and I think there were probably about 1,000 people there. And after his presentation, they were standing, there was a lineup of people wanting to just shake this gentleman's hand, give them their respects, pray for him. And one of them came up, there was a family, a mother and a father, and I think two or three children. And they came up and they said, we drove 3 hours to be here because my children wanted to meet an IDF soldier because they pray for them every night.
Wow.
I mean, this brought tears to the soldiers. Our warriors, our tough warriors, it brought tears to his eyes. And it was really, really incredible.
Is this really helping to build Jewish Christian relationships as well?
Definitely. This is all about bridging our communities together. I have made it a very strong mission of mine to also educate the Jewish world of how important this community is and how welcoming they are. Because, for years, we didn't necessarily interact all the time, whether it was in a positive way, or just being sensitive to each other, or maybe being afraid to really build those bridges and walk those bridges. And I think it's important that both communities understand that it is great and we're appreciative, and it's very valuable for the Christian communities themselves to bring in Jewish speakers, and vice versa, that the Jewish community should be welcoming as well, and really open those doors of conversation and unity, because right now we're in a battle that is a joint battle. This is not about anti-Semitism per se. It's not even about Israel per se. It's just a joint battle that we have to be united on.
Yeah, it does seem to be very much that there is a battle between left and right at the moment. And maybe actually Christians are going to go through some of the same things that the Jews have always faced and went through. So it's very important that we learn from some of these things, isn't it?
Sure. Sure. There's battles politically, religiously. There's various battles that we're dealing with across the world. There's battles that the Christian community is dealing with right now, correct? With the far right. So, you have battles in all areas, and ultimately we're much more powerful in numbers, just like prayers, right? Prayers are more powerful in numbers. Well, dealing with all of these issues throughout the world, it's more important in numbers that we stand together.
So when you've got IDF reservists speaking in churches and you obviously advertise this, do you get any pushback at all? Do you get any protests from leftists or anything like that? And then getting people saying some of the things that we do hear from the left?
Sure. Sure. Well, we're non-political, right? As a nonprofit, we don't really deal with politics because we'll speak to anybody. We welcome the conversation to any political affiliation, as long as, again, it is for the reason of wanting to open conversation and have dialogue. Luckily, we have not experienced in churches. We have not experienced it, of course, on campuses. There has been some. Our speakers don't go and do, there are some speakers that do tabling that will sit outside and do Q&As outside of a school where you'll normally see the high conflict experiences or situations arise out of that. We don't do that. We come in when it's planned, and usually we are in welcoming communities and welcoming universities that are already more pro-Israel. We don't want to convince those that hate us, or we don't want to, we just really want to nurture those who already have an affinity for us and are on the same page, and be able to give them that firsthand experience.
Does it feel like your organization was born for such a time as this?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it was born because of this time. Really, we launched Strong Voices for Israel just under 2 years ago, and it was really serendipitous because it was both myself and two incredible IDF reservists, Noy Leib and Max Long. Noy lives in Israel, and Max is actually there now, serving in his reserve duty. He was called back. He lives in Chicago, and really it was our mission to make a difference, seeing that there was a huge problem in North America and, quite honestly, the world, in not being able to get these stories told and these human connections established and created for these communities that don't normally have the opportunity.
So this really is helping fighting the media war. And is this a war that Israel is actually currently losing at the moment? We're fighting the physical war, but are we losing the media
Yeah.
war?
Yeah. Look, the amount of negative false information is very, very hard to battle. And I keep saying battle or fight. That's actually not our premise, right? Our premise is more to educate and build positivity and flourish positivity, because ultimately, in the long run, that is what's going to overpower any of that PR aspect that you see, because it's a very hard, when you're competing against the money that Qatar is putting towards the spread of lies through social media, it's really difficult. And when you think about the number of Jews there are in the world, even if every Jew in the world, including in Israel, right? And outside was at 50 million. If we posted every day, all day long, we still probably wouldn't touch, move the needle. It's a very hard battle with PR. And with the history of anti-Semitism for thousands of years, that's an added layer to the challenge and obstacle of fighting this PR. So I don't like saying, "Are we losing?" I mean, it's an ongoing. It'll be continuously ongoing as long as we exist. So it's not a win or game situation, a win or lose game situation. But are there things that we need to be doing differently to be able to get the right information out there? Absolutely, and that's what we're trying to do the best that we can.
Does it feel strange you're talking about Qatar and their money, but doesn't it feel a little bit strange that they've actually been trying to negotiate peace deals?
It's a strange world, my friend.
Yeah.
Everything is, yes, it's so hard. That's why clearly faith is so important, right? Because it's so hard um, at a realistic level to, when you're seeing all of these flips and you don't know which side you're actually looking at because you don't have that person in front of you. It's crazy. It really is. I teach communication skills for a living, and that's what I've been doing for almost 2 decades. So I focus a lot on how we represent reality and how we filter reality based on certain things. But at the end of the day, we're going to filter reality primarily on our experiences and our personal memories. So I think that's where the main focus needs to be in any situation, is really giving the best experience that you can in order for people to have the reality that's closest, their representation of reality closest to actual reality is through experience.
Now, you were there in Miami, and I remember from when I was there in Miami, there was a Jewish community. How is the Jewish community feeling at the moment? Are they feeling uncomfortable? Do they feel that, at some point we're going to have to leave and come back to Israel, or are they feeling okay at the moment?
Yeah, so I have friends. I'm originally from Toronto, from Canada. I've been living in Miami for 30 years. I travel a lot, both in my business and both in this work, in my advocacy work and nonprofit work. So I have friends, colleagues all over the country. And the sentiment depends on where you're living. It depends on how closely connected you are to Israel. It depends on how closely connected you are to your Judaism, to your religion, to your faith. It depends on how much you've assimilated in your communities. So that will depend. So it's contextual. I will tell you that here in Florida, the Jewish community is extremely strong, and we have a great governor that really protects Jewish people. I mean, my son goes to college in Orlando, and let me tell you, not any little bit of anti-Semitism anywhere, and it is stopped in its tracks. So we have protection. In other states, for example, New York, I know my Jewish friends are struggling there, and many are looking at leaving. In Canada and Toronto, I would say the majority of my friends there are trying to find a way and are looking at backup plans on how to get out. Yes, so ultimately, it is a very, very scary time for Jews worldwide. I mean, Paul, I was there during the war now. I just came back from Israel. And I'll be honest, I felt safer in Israel than I do here in the United States in general.
Yeah.
Because, we anything can happen any day here. In Israel, you're protected. You have the IDF, you have the Iron Dome, you have borders, you have boundaries, you have, it's different. Yes, there's missiles dropping, and yes, there's war, and it is, of course, it's unsafe in certain degrees, but as far as feeling protected, felt much more protected over there than here.
Well, now you also support lone soldiers. Are these soldiers that are leaving one
Yes,
country and coming to Israel and fight for the
correct,
IDF to fight for their
correct.
country because they're Jewish?
Yeah, so Strong Voices for Israel is an initiative through Growing Wings. Growing Wings is an amazing, amazing organization, nonprofit that specializes in lone soldiers. That was also founded by Max Long, our co-founder of Strong Voices for Israel. And because it was a natural progression. So Growing Wings takes care of lone soldiers in Israel and helping them, um, you know, uh, with housing, with mental health, with getting a job, anything that they need to make it easier for them when they finish their service and they're staying in Israel. So one of the things and why we created Strong Voices is because we want to give those lone soldiers, some that are, mostly that ones that come back to the United States or are going back and forth, the opportunity to share their stories, because it's also a form of therapy. It's therapeutic for them to be able to share these experiences, because as I'm sure you know, there's a tremendous amount of PTSD with soldiers, with all Israelis, quite frankly, after October 7th. But with soldiers, it's really high. There's high suicide rates right now. So we want to be able to do everything that we can. So it's a win-win situation in the sense that, while we're educating the Christian communities and other faith-based non-Jewish communities, then at the same time, we're able to help these soldiers and help these soldiers have a connection with others as well.
Must be very difficult leaving your family and everything that you know and coming to Israel and being part of the IDF. And of course, she's well, you don't know what's going to happen here. You could be back into war at any moment. It must be really difficult, especially when you're on your own here in Israel.
Absolutely, absolutely. Just the decision to be a lone soldier is just incredibly challenging and brave and courageous. That's why I have such an affinity for our lone soldiers, all of our soldiers, all of IDF. But you live in Israel, it's mandatory. You're a lone soldier, it's not mandatory. This is by choice. And that in itself is a huge sacrifice, but even more so after you've done your service, you've come back, you've built your life, you have your business, you have a family. As a reservist, to drop everything and leave that and go back to fight, to me, that is just unbelievable. And I admire these young men that do that, like Max. I know so many of them. We have many lone soldiers that are back in the United States and that are called in, and they will step up and go to reserve duty in time of war. So yeah, it's amazing.
Now, with the rise of anti-Semitism, it must be really important to be hearing the voices of second generation Holocaust survivors as well.
Yes, that's one of the reasons why I go and I speak as well. On behalf of my father, I published his manuscript shortly after October 7th. I also went to Poland a few months after that to retrace his footsteps, and my family, my cousins in New York, They worked on an amazing project. My cousin Michael Pomerantz worked on an amazing project for 10 years where they uncovered mass graves, about 800 bodies at a slave labor camp next to the concentration camp where many of our family, my father escaped from, which was Sobibor. And they were able to finally convince the Polish government after 10 years to turn it into a memorial. And so I was there for the unveiling ceremony, which was phenomenal because I was also able to discover that my great grandmother, who I'm named after, was identified there and was buried there.
Wow, wow.
So yeah, so I share these powerful stories. I had an amazing experience with a young Christian man that was my driver. So I definitely take much passion and pride in being able to share those stories with different communities.
Is it important today that we capture the young generation, especially the students, to actually let them know a lot of these stories and all of these stories to keep them on the right path?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Paul. And I just spoke at a church in January in Decatur, Illinois, and I was so shocked because, when you are second generation or when you're speaking to an audience, usually when it comes to the Holocaust, it's more the older, the adults that are really focused and listening. And kids' attentions, could sway. And when I came off the stage, there was a group of at least 15 young women. They were young women, teenagers from the ages of 12 to 16, even like 11 to 16. They all approached me. They were hugging me. They were so grateful. They wanted to learn more about my father. They wanted to know, how did they get the book. They were so absolutely intrigued and interested in learning more. They mentioned they'd studied Anne Frank, but they want to know more. It was so heartwarming. That really shook me. That shook me to my core because that's how it should be. It is the younger generation that we need help, right? That needs help and needs education because they are getting such horrible information through social media platforms that is not true, whether it's the Holocaust deniers that are, it's trending, it's popular, right? It's popular to say that the Holocaust never happened. How we got here, Paul, I have no idea that how we got here, that it's a trending popular thing to change history and change facts. I don't know, but we're here. So yes, youth is hugely important and that we need to make sure that they never forget and that they know the truth.
Why do you do what you do?
Mm. I have a father who for I have a father who, if you look at things logically, he shouldn't have survived. If you look at things biologically, he should not have survived. But he was a warrior and he was a partisan and he fought and he survived, which means that I'm a miracle and that my son is a miracle, which means we are here for a reason. And I find it would be a waste of life if I didn't do something in my life, in my blessed miraculous life, to make sure that people are educated, to make sure that I can help people in many ways, and do whatever I can to make sure that the next generation knows the truth, that our Jewish children can walk in the streets, that my son can walk in the streets proudly with the Star of David without having any problem anywhere in this world. So that is my mission and that's my why.
What is your prayer for Jewish people around the world today?
It's a really good question, Paul. My prayer is to stay strong, to stay proud, to stay aware, and stay united.
Hmm. Well, well, Liz, thank you very much for sharing today.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.